Hey everyone, welcome back to another Josh Wonders Why. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and watch us as Kelly and I just stumble over various conversations about various things. Typically, it's Monday at night at 7 p.m. and what we do is we cover a variety of topics, just whatever on our mind. It could be religion, could be food, could be, movies. And if you have questions you'd like us to discuss or debate, feel free to chime in a post or in a comment. But tonight we're going to finish a 3-part series that we started, I can't remember, more than 3 weeks ago, to talk about cults, with the ultimate question culminating in tonight's discussion of, is Christianity a cult? So I've given Kelly, I took last week off, and I gave Kelly an extra week to prepare for this, to give us all the answers for tonight, right?
Can we have kind of a unofficial poll, and people can say, do you, yes or no, is Christianity a cult?
We can do that on there. If Leslie can try to do it live, you want to try to create a poll down below where it says create poll. Type in a question. Here, I'll help you. We're gonna do this live. Type in, is Christianity a cult? So my daughter is leading the production behind the scenes, so we're going to have her try to do this on the fly. And then question mark, because you always got to add a question. And then down below for options, say option 1, say yes.
Hi, Marilyn. Thanks for joining us.
And option 2, say no. And you're going to learn just scroll down and hit save. And then hit create poll. Let's see what happens.
So if you just joined, we are trying to create a poll on here.
Did it do anything?
I don't see anything on here, but it might take a little bit. Who knows? Anyway, I just thought people could put yes or no in the comment, but
oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you said the polls.
I said an informal poll. You could just put yes or no.
Activate poll. Yes,
there you go.
Do that. So we should have activated, I don't know, Leslie's going to figure it out in this meeting. There may or may not be an actual poll that pops up if you're watching. If not, I'd be curious, just chime in the comments. Do you think Christianity is a poll? And it, yes, no. I guess we should have added a third option where it's complicated, maybe, could be the third option, right? Do you remember I don't know if you remember back when Facebook first started, you could say you were in a relationship with somebody, but you could rate the relationship, and I think one of them was, it's complicated. I recall that being one of the options of, I'm in a relationship with this person, but it's complicated, right?
Well, here it is. See?
Did it pop up?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
That's lovely.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you. Josh Annan asks.
And we can see the percentage of people due to the screen. That's awesome. Yeah, and Mary's saying, I can't say yes or no due to the variance in Christianity. Yes, it's complicated. There, I should have added. So if you can, see if you can figure out adding a third vote to say it's complicated. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out. Leslie's going to figure it out, but we're going to go through some details. So maybe as Leslie's trying to figure it out, let's rehash on the past 2 discussions we had. So the first discussion, we really just worked on defining what is a cult. Mm-hmm. And the main things we covered were all cults seem to have a charismatic and manipulative leader who, for the most part, can't be wrong. He's, you can't go above him. Or she, yes, that's right. You did. Yep. We did have some studies on that. And also there's exploitation of the members, so either exploiting them financially, sexually. I'm sure there's other ways to exploit them. I guess there's also a feeling of isolation, like an us versus them mentality, mm-hmm. where you're either, for us or you're against us. There can't be anywhere in the middle. There's an indoctrination program, and it's really hard to leave. And we mentioned the metaphor or whatever of boiling a frog, which I don't know from experience, but apparently you do because you're the one that brought it up. But
it's just a metaphor that is well known.
If you throw a frog in boiling water,
cooking a frog,
he will jump out. But if you put it in cold mm-hmm. and heat warm the temperature, by the time he realizes it's too late. Yeah,
it's too late to get out. Mm-hmm.
So we covered that the first time, or the first session. The second session, we did some case studies on maybe some cults in the past to maybe look at some extreme examples, both mm-hmm. Cults ran by men and women. It was interesting to understand and see that they all shared the common characteristics that we talked about that mm-hmm. first week. So all that leads up into the third session where we mm-hmm. answer the question, is Christianity a cult? And we put a poll in there, and we have two answers, yes or no. I feel like I should have had a third option, but we can't do that. But it's complicated. It could be the third option.
And if you don't see the poll, over next to where it says write a comment on the left-hand side, there are 3 bars. And if you tap that, it'll open up the poll.
There we go. So, I'll just ask you the question. Is Christianity a cult, Kelly?
Well, let's ponder that together.
Let's ponder it together. Let's do it.
So I found a YouTube video where this woman has 10 signs your church is becoming a cult.
Okay.
So I thought we could go through these 10 signs and we'll see if it applies to Christianity.
Okay.
Now, I think we should probably say that Christianity comes in a lot of flavors.
Yes.
I guess, just like evangelical Christians, progressive Christians, Lutherans, Presbyterians, Methodists. There are all kinds of Methodists too. It's not just United Methodist. There are all kinds of different Methodist churches. So, and then there are non-denominational ones. So we have to kind of maybe look at individual churches that we know.
Yeah.
Because she says signs your church is becoming a cult. So this isn't necessarily is Christianity as a whole a cult, but maybe we could decide that at the end.
Sure, let's do it.
We'll see what the poll says.
Let's hear the 10.
Okay, the first one is the church has an authoritarian style of leadership with no accountability. The leader puts space between him or herself and staff. There's an inner circle of yes men, and the church equates the leader with God. So I think that's interesting. The leader puts space between him or herself and staff, because a healthy organization, the CEO is going to, be a team player with the team. I mean, yes, the buck stops with the pastor.
Yeah.
I feel ultimately responsible for what goes on there, but I don't put myself higher than anybody else in the church as far as, it's my way or the highway, that's not the way it should be. So if your church is like kind of holding him or herself above it all, like, don't question me. That's another one too. I'm right and you're always going to be wrong if you don't agree with me. So, and that inner circle of yes men, if there are people around the pastor who, no matter what the pastor does or says, will agree with them, will defend them, will make excuses for them, that's a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, there's got to be accountability with a pastor. That's one of the things that's important about denominations, is that there's accountability. I know within the United Methodist Church, there's accountability. All the pastors are under a superintendent of a district, and the superintendent is under the bishop, and so there are all these checks and balances. And the bishop isn't like the final word either, but it's kind of like within a church, you have to be accountable to someone,
Yeah.
And the bishop is accountable to the rest of the bishops and the judicial council. So we have a judicial council, and if somebody, it's just like, in regular life, if you have a complaint against someone, then you can take that to the judicial council, and there's a process for that. So there is accountability. If I am screwing something up, someone can report me, and I can be tried for that. So that's important. But if you're in a cult, there's no accountability for the leader. Number 2 is no tolerance for questions or criticism, which again, the leader's always right. No transparency with finances. That's really important. And I think, like in the United Methodist Church, if you're a member of the church, you can have a financial statement. You can see the profit and loss. You can see, how the budget's going. You can see how the money's being sent. Not everybody knows that, but it is not to be kept a secret, and only a few people know. That transparency with finances is really important, because we know a lot of cults prey on people for their money.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also transparency. I mean, that's inferred, but it's clear where the money is going, right? It's not like we just give money and we assume it goes to a cause, but maybe it goes somewhere else, right?
And, every church should be having an audit on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And anybody within the church that, has a group that has a checkbook or something, that has to be submitted for the audit.
With that one, I'm thinking of like the, what is it? The televangelists or the prosperity gospels, which, give me money and I can afford a bigger jet, right?
Well, yeah.
But how is that helping out the cause of God and, the needy, right?
And they'll say, we're building wells, and maybe they are, but what's the salary of that pastor? You have a right to know.
Yeah.
So.
It's expensive to build wells, though. He's got to dig them himself, right? Or herself. Anyway.
Number 4, the leader has a persecution or enemy complex. So, the leader may think, if anybody questions, you don't trust me, you're being mean to me, I don't know. So, but an elitist attitude of a church coupled with this complex, a persecution or enemy complex, leads to thinking that they are the only true church, or that their church is doing something greater than other churches. So, within cults, we talked about, you tell the followers, you're only safe here. Mm-hmm. Everybody out there is bad.
Yeah, the us versus them mentality.
Yes,
yeah.
So if your church is, circling the wagons and saying, don't associate with people out there because they're bad, that's a good sign that your church is becoming a cult. Number 5, people who leave are shamed and shunned. The leader is building an empire for him or herself. And so if someone leaves, we see this in certain communities, like the Amish community or the FLDS, this more extreme version of Mormonism, Scientology.
Yeah.
These groups, if you leave and your family's still in the group, they're not allowed to talk to you or contact you, which is a big red flag.
Yeah.
So, 6, there's a pattern of abuse and grievances. 7, followers feel they can never be good enough. Your work or your money is never enough for the leader. That just makes me think of televangelists.
Yeah.
If you could just give a little bit more. If you could give a little bit more, God will bless you more if you give more, And then people are sending their life savings to these people who clearly don't need your money.
Yeah.
There is a culture of shame and instability. The leader encourages members to expose their sins and to rat out others. So, this is different than if you leave, you're shamed and shunned. This is within the group. You don't want anybody feeling good about themselves, I guess, because if they feel bad about themselves, if they're ashamed, then they will be more likely to stay and try to do whatever they're told to do to alleviate that shame. It's never going to happen because that's a way of controlling people. And, and then you're scared to death somebody's going to rat you out if you do something wrong, or if you don't do something wrong and they just don't like you and they, make something up. So a church shouldn't be making people expose their sins.
Like publicly?
Publicly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm not saying that your pastor may say, this is according to Scripture, this is a sinful thing to do. You shouldn't do this. But the pastor should not be going, Sister Charlotte, you need to stand up and tell us all what you were doing last weekend, and we'll make you feel bad. Number 9, the leader is always right. Challenging the leader equals challenging God. And number 10, the church and the leader think that all the knowledge and revelation reside within themselves and their ministry. Their leader may be called the prophet or the prophetess. So
they believe their interpretation of the Bible is the one.
Yeah, that's like Gwen Shamblin in the Remnant Fellowship Church. She preached, we're the only ones who have it right. Everybody else is lost. If they don't join us, they're out of luck because we're the only ones who have the truth. And
yeah.
So, yeah.
There's 10. Okay. So you got 10 reasons. So I think going through there, as you've been going through, and again, I mentioned this at the beginning, I think the real answer to is Christianity a cult is complicated. I think overall Christianity, and we can go back and look, I feel that that's not a cult. However, within denominations and offshoots, there are extreme groups within denominations.
Right.
Like each denomination could be guilty of having a group that could be cultish in a way, right? So it's just tough because you could say, well, no, I'm Methodist or Baptist or Presbyterian. That's not a cult, but there could be a certain church that is within the denomination, but that is
Sure.
that. Are there you said there's a checks and balances? So would the certain denominations, be able to, I guess
usually
track them down, or at least try to?
Usually denominations are going to have some sort of hierarchy or checks and balances.
Yeah.
So that because if you're in a denomination, you're expected to conform to the tenets of that denomination, and so they'll be checking, or like in the United Methodist Church, there's a rigorous process to become a pastor, an ordained pastor, and because they want to make sure that your theology aligns with the United Methodist theology and doctrine. I think where the problem comes in is when you have non-denominational churches.
Okay.
Then, it's usually a leader who starts it. And they're usually very charismatic, and so people come and they join. But there's nobody above that pastor.
Yeah.
And if that pastor is holding him or herself up as, the ultimate source of truth and always right, and then you're gonna have a very cult-like church.
So maybe I should have asked this instead of Christianity, because as you mentioned that with the leader, let's talk about the Catholic Church. Because it feels like, with the Pope and the leaders, right, they seem to intercede for you for God, right? You confess to them.
Yeah.
You don't, I guess, it seems some of these things you could say lightly could be, could represent the Catholic Church in a way, right?
Well, since I'm not a Catholic, I'm not going to address that, and I don't want
That's fine.
to.
Okay.
I don't want to, offend anyone who is Catholic by, I have my opinions of that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to call the Catholic Church a cult, because there are checks and balances.
Yeah.
In the Catholic Church, and so.
But I guess this is just because in the Catholic Church, is the Pope accountable to like a board or something? Do you know? Is there?
I don't really know.
Okay.
I think the Pope is the ultimate authority.
Okay.
So the Pope gets to decide things. But that is because they believe the Pope has been chosen by God.
Yeah.
And therefore, he should be allowed to make the decisions.
And that's the one of the 10. That's the one that stands out. But all the others, like there's no shame in leaving. They don't shame the people that are part of it. They have transparency of the finances. That one just stands out as there's an authoritative.
There is a, I don't know if I would call this shunning, but and I don't think it's this way anymore. But it used to be that if you were having a Catholic wedding, you couldn't have any attendants that weren't Catholics.
Okay.
Like everybody in the wedding party had to be Catholic. I don't think it's that way anymore, but that's kind of I don't know. That's not really shunning, but that's drawing a line, us and them.
Yeah.
So.
Now we were at a Catholic wedding this weekend, and they did, and I've had them me before, but they did a communion, and they said if you're not Catholic, you can still come up front, but cross your arms so you can get a blessing instead, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know what that had to do with what you were saying, but you mentioned Catholic weddings.
Because only Catholics are allowed to take communion.
Yeah.
Now, in the United Methodist Church, we practice open communion. The table is open to all. You don't have to be a member of the United Methodist Church or any church to receive communion, because we believe that it is it's a sacrament, which means it's something that God does. Mm-hmm. It's not something that we do. The grace is in the sacrament, and the grace is from God. And so everybody gets grace. You get grace. You get grace. Everybody gets grace. Oh, Danielle says they don't shun, but they have Catholic guilt.
Well, interesting. So I'm trying to think what my next question is going to be. The other thing, so I think we've answered the question. I guess Christianity as a whole is not a cult. Now, people could argue, could you see God or Jesus, God as the authoritative figure, right? Mm-hmm. And is that the authoritative figure that he's the charismatic and manipulative leader, right? I mean it's a weak argument, but I'm just trying to bring it up as that could be something.
So I'm going to say that we can't say that God is a cult leader, because God created us. God is our maker. So I'm not sure if that would apply. We could talk about, was Jesus a cult leader? Because he started a new religion, right?
Yeah.
So was Jesus a cult leader? I don't think any of that applies.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus went to the cross, so I'm going to say he wasn't necessarily all about himself and how great he is, even though he is great. He humbled himself, and cult leaders don't humble themselves ever.
Yeah, but I guess within Christianity, like we said, there are certain maybe denominations or offshoots that maybe exploit the beliefs of Christianity and Christians for their own, general good and well-being.
Well, and I think that's I think that's a really good point, and I think you have to ask yourself, if you are if you're in a church where any of these things apply. If you're in a church and you're not allowed to question, that's a problem, because questioning our faith helps us to grow. Questioning leaders should be your prerogative. You should be able to do that. And if you're not, that's a big red flag.
Yeah.
If you can't question anything, including your faith, that's a big red flag, because that shows also that somebody is real worried that people are going to see behind the curtain and see the Great Oz is not all that great.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that churches will try to hide things, because they don't want people to know that it's really not all that great, or we're doing things we shouldn't be doing and we don't want you to know, so don't question.
Yeah.
Red flag.
Times like that, you should just ask yourself, what would Jesus do, right? How would Jesus be in this situation?
Oh, or what would Jessica do?
Jessica, that's right.
Jessica wouldn't put up with any cults.
Yeah. So you mentioned also, you had done some more research.
Oh, here's another one. Mary says 100 years ago, a Catholic priest would not marry my grandparents. He was Catholic. She was Methodist. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's true today. I don't think Catholic can marry outside of Catholicism in the Catholic Church. I think the other person has to become Catholic. So.
Is that true? I'm not in all means saying the Jewish people are cults, but what about the Jewish what's the name? Will they marry someone that is non-Jewish?
Intermarry?
Yeah, intermarry. Will they allow that within their churches or their temples?
I don't know.
Okay. I never thought about that. That is
know.
interesting. I know we went to a baptism at a Lutheran church for our niece, 15 years ago, and my wife was part of the baptism, and she had to get permission from the priest to take communion, because she had grown up Lutheran, but then she converted to Methodist, and she had to go in front of him, and he gave her a signed permission slip that she could take communion.
Who gave her the permission?
The priest, I think it was Lutheran.
Oh.
So.
Maybe Episcopal.
It could be. I don't know. Maybe it was Episcopal. I don't know.
I think Episcopalians are more.
But that's interesting.
High church. Yeah.
So, the other thing you mentioned you did some research on, because I know you loved researching cults. One of the other characteristics of a cult is that they use jargon in a way that sort of maybe helps with the isolation, us versus them. Use this jargon, and you found there are, I guess we say, 13 Christianese terms. So I'm curious to go through these jargons to see if people recognize them, and maybe that'll help us understand. Maybe Christianity is a cult with these jargons, right?
Okay. So Christianese is a way of talking that Christians often do that people outside of the church have no idea what they mean, or, So we're going to see if you know all these. The first one, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
I just pulled out ones that I thought, okay, I hear this one a lot. Fellowship, which means hanging out with other people.
You don't think that's used outside of the church?
I think people are more likely to say, hey, you want to hang out this weekend?
Oh, I was thinking...
would you like to fellowship with me this weekend?
I was thinking Lord of the Rings. The first book is Fellowship with the Ring,
yes,
right?
And how many of us live in a Hobbit world?
How many people have seen Lord of the Rings? And no.
Okay, quiet time. What do you think quiet time is?
Quiet time?
Uh-huh.
A time of reflection?
Okay.
Did I pass?
It means reading the Bible and praying by yourself.
Oh.
So you're going to go.
That's quiet
You're going to go do quiet time.
I've not heard that used that way. I figure it was
that
a moment of silence or something.
That may be more of a female thing too. I don't know. Okay, hedge of protection.
I have never heard that phrase before.
Really? You've never heard that? So has anybody else ever heard hedge of protection? It means...
Danielle said quiet time sounds like a nap. That's what I thought as well, Danielle. I'm glad you, quiet time or, yeah.
Yeah.
Hedge of
protection.
Hedge of protection.
So it's like God is going to put a hedge around you that, to me it sounds like a force field,
Is that biblically based? Is there like a verse that talks about that, like in Psalms or something that's based off of?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. That's an older one though.
Is it like in a hymn or something that?
I don't hear anybody use that anymore, but I worked with a pastor who used that.
Hedge of protection. Okay.
Traveling mercies.
Yes.
That's a Christian thing. Nobody, if you're not a Christian, you don't say traveling mercies on your trip. You go, have a safe trip.
That's what
that means.
So I never heard that until Mary Kate, my wife, and I were in some adult Sunday school class or adult class, and every week we'd write down prayer concerns, and someone would always say, "Oh, travel mercies for me. I'm going out of town."
Yeah.
I never heard that before, but then it caught on. I was like, "Oh, that's what that means."
That's what that means.
Okay, travel mercies.
Having mercy on your traveling. Washed by the blood.
Yes.
Yeah.
You talked about that last week at Digging Deep, right? If I don't recall, that's gonna be weird from outsider coming in and saying, "What we're drinking his blood right now?"
Right.
And,
yeah. But if you grew up in the church,
oh yeah, it's something you take for granted.
You're super comfortable talking about blood when it comes from Jesus, anyway. But washed by the blood means atonement for sins because Jesus was killed on a cross. Mm-hmm. Tithes and offerings. That means passing the plates for money.
Yeah.
Tithes are money that you've pledged to give, usually 10%. Offerings could be other things than money. It's also money, but it could be other things like your time or yourself, or we just usually don't put those in the plate.
Going back, Danielle said, hedge of protection you've heard in fancy prayers.
Fancy prayers, yeah.
You need to add that one of your prayers.
Okay. I don't do fancy prayers. Lay hands on.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not a Christian, what are you going to think we're going to lay hands on you, my friend? You'd be like, I don't think so. Nope. Because that either sounds really inappropriate or like you're going to beat me up.
Yeah.
But laying hands on is placing hands on someone and praying for them.
Yeah. You bring up a good point, or bring up a good thought with that, and also with communion. If someone brand new to the Christian faith, just never been a Christian, and said, I'm going to go to church today, right? And it happens to be Communion Sunday, but also they're sending off a mission team to go somewhere, right? And you hear, communion blood, and you talk about the laying hands. Like, what the heck is going on in this place?
And I think that's that whole concept of laying hands on a person and praying for them can be used in absolutely the wrong circumstance. People that are in wheelchairs will have people come up to them that they don't know, lay hands on them, and pray for them to be healed. And that's really inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Don't lay hands on people unless they know what you mean. And
that's fair. Okay. Yes. I mean, I think there's different. I mean, if they ask you and it's understood,
yes,
as opposed to just walking up to a random stranger,
right? I mean, I had a pastor do that to me one time.
He just walked up randomly.
I had mentioned that I had a headache. This was when I was in youth group, and he was the youth pastor, and he and his wife were there, and they were older. And I had mentioned something about having a headache, and before they left, we were at a sledding party. So before they left, I heard them just like whisper something to each other, and they come over, and he puts his hands on my head and prays for me. By that time, I didn't have a headache anymore, but he didn't ask.
Well, it worked. It was so good. It went in the past and got your headache, right?
Right.
So where do you put his hands? Like on your?
Just like on my head.
Okay, I thought it was gonna come by and just like bump you in the forehead, like those televangelists do. You're healed, right?
That's when you need a demon to come out.
Okay, sorry.
Smack you when they're, come out. And you need to get rid of a demon. It's very different. Very different. The Lord works in mysterious ways, which means I have no idea why that happened. I'll have to pray on it. Yes. That means I need time to come up with an excuse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of saying no, right? Give me some time.
Just say no. Just say no. Let's have a word of prayer. I guarantee you there will be more than just one word when somebody says that. Let go and let God, which means stop stressing me out by telling me all your problems. Speak the truth in love. I'm going to speak the truth in love, which means I'm going to insult you or point out where you are wrong. But I'm only speaking the truth in love.
I've not heard that phrase used.
Really? Oh, yeah.
Have you heard it?
Yes.
Okay.
That's just, when you think that you are right and someone else is wrong, you feel that, the Bible tells you that you have to go correct them. Supposedly, the Bible says that. And so you have to go speak the truth in love. So, yeah, I'm going to insult you and tell you that you're wrong. But I'm just speaking the truth in love because I love you. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't come and tell you that you're wrong.
No offense. I said no offense.
Yeah, no offense. No offense. Just keeping it real. That's what I say when you rebuke me for telling you that you're wrong.
Just keeping it real. That's a Christian thing. I
don't know.
I use that jokingly.
I haven't heard that one before, but
okay.
I just thought that was funny. That's the comeback. I'm speaking the truth in love. No, you're not. Hey, just keeping it real. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Some of those I've not heard that, but that is, like I said, I wonder if we as Christians need to think about the terminology we use. If someone came in totally, brand new, would it make sense, right? Or I mean, even if you do that, maybe you explain, okay, for people that are not, or just like maybe have some additional explanations of that stuff.
Because And a lot of Christians, they might use all this jargon on Sunday morning, and then the rest of the week, they never say stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, to me, it's just funny to use some of these phrases. But I'm gonna lay hands on you and pray a hedge of protection.
With travel mercies, right?
Yes, with travel mercies that you make it home. I like that comment. Someone randomly laying on hands could easily wind up getting hands laid on them, so to speak. Exactly. Yes. Oh my goodness.
Well, that's fun.
There's so many more, but I have to stop there.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
With all that jargon, that's funny. What's been interesting, talking about cults and answering the question, is Christianity a cult, and then ending with this these fun Christianese. I'm sure there's other out there.
Oh yeah.
I guess you others that you could that you've heard before in church that may be weird to say in public. If you have them, put them in the comments, or I'd love to hear if there's additional ones that you used in the past or have been used on you.
Yeah, I'm going to make a post. What Christianese do you know? And then you can make comments.
That's a good idea. Yes, you should do that right now.
I'm going to do it right now.
Now that you have your laptop, you can do it real time.
I have my Chromebook here because I couldn't print off what I wanted, my notes, and I kind of like, having them.
Might start doing this from now on. Have a laptop
know,
up so we can do this interactively.
Yeah,
with
all my fun stickers I have on there.
So appreciate you all watching tonight. If you missed this morning, there was Coffee with Kelly, so you should go back and definitely watch that video. And then this Thursday, we'll be back with another live stream for Digging Deep with Kelly. And what is your topic this week? Do you know? Or is it going to be a mystery?
Hold on. Wait. I know what it is. It's Ephesians 5:15-20, and it's about being careful how you live.
Be careful how you live.
Be very, very careful.
Okay.
Be careful.
So you want to know how to be careful while you live.
Unless something funny happens on the way to the sermon, and then it'll be different. It could happen. By the time I get to Digging Deep, we might be digging into something different.
So tune in 7 p.m. on Thursday to find out if Kelly actually preaches about Ephesians or something totally off topic. So
yeah, I did have coffee though this morning.
That is good.
Yeah.
Was it hot too, or?
It was hot. Yes.
Okay.
The way it's supposed to be.
There you go. Well, great. Well, thanks again for helping us unpack this discussion on cults. Thank you all for watching us. If you have any additional topics you'd like us to cover or any other questions, put them in the comments, put them in the post. You can even post anonymously if you don't want your name associated with any of the questions. And then, Kelly's going to post now about Christianese, so curious what other Christianese you have heard. And with that, we hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you later.
Yeah, see ya.